上当百年，欺世大官。
Hello everyone, welcome to Deception of the World. After the Chinese Communist Party took power in China in 1949, in order to consolidate its illegal regime, it has spared no effort to brainwash the Chinese people and install the following ideas through media and education until today. That is, old society and old China, reactionary, oppressive, dark, exploitative, ugly, ignorant, disastrous, horrible, and unjust, while the new society and new China are progressive, liberating, bright, welfare, beautiful, civilized, happy, peaceful, and righteous. In other words, the former is hell and the future is heaven. The truth, of course, is the opposite. The pre-1949 millennium China, even in the modern Republican era, was far more beautiful and civilized than communist-ruled China. Let's take a look at how the Communist Party managed to brainwash the entire Chinese nation. The Communist Party invented various forms of brainwashing, including the national-wide Remember Past Sufferings and Happiness Today campaign launched during the Cultural Revolution. According to the Communist Party's official explanation, remember past sufferings and happiness today means recalling the pain of being oppressed and exploited in the old society, and thinking of the hard-won happiness of the new society, to be grateful to the brilliant Mao and the wise CCP state. The most important part of this strange campaign was to eat a poor meal. Before we start our show, if you would like to support our show, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to Zoom in China. Thank you. Now back to our topic. In the context of the CCP, the poor meals means to replicate the meals of the poor in the old society and organize people to eat them in order to arouse resentment and disgust. The timing of the meals should also be well controlled, mainly during the New Year, now called Spring Festival, May 4th Youth Day, June 1st Children's Day, October's 1st CCP National Day, family members' birthdays, or when students went down to the countryside during the movements. Generally, schools and units were responsible for cooking, and sometimes they asked farmers in rural areas to cook. At that time, people believed that the more the poor meals were difficult to eat, the better the effect of remember past sufferings and happiness today would be. So the poor meals were made with crude ingredients. Some were steamed bread made with corn flour, dry sweet potatoes, and yam flour, or made with wheat bark commonly known as bran and corn flour. Some are rice bran porridge with rotten vegetable leaves, wild vegetables, and such. Sometimes even worse. Mud, sand, cinder, or something else could also be added into it. So even pigs will not eat some of the poor meals. I'm not going to hide it from you. One of our team members experienced many kinds of poor meals in different villages during the countryside labor exercise, and he said he would even vomit if he recalls the taste today. The purpose of the poor meals was to make you hate the old society through the revulsion of your taste. But the CCP knew that it was not that simple. They usually arranged for you to listen to a report or a song on the recall past sufferings, or watch plays of the recall past sufferings before the meal. Some old peasants were invited to speak on the spot, saying with emotion how poor the old society was, how the landlords exploited and oppressed people, how much the peasants suffered from starvation and lived a dog's life. The effect would be the best if the people who heard these could start to cry, especially young students and children. And then the poor meals were prepared and the rancid smell was wafting. The village secretary and militia captain greeted, come on, dinner is ready." The climax of empathy was reached when the people were curling their lips in disgust and pinching their noses, dared to hate it in their hearts and could only line up to taste the poor meals. In my memory, every time there were students vomiting on the spot, looking at the old farmer and the village secretary was watching over them. The poor students could only wipe their tears, rinse their mouths, and continue to stuff the revolutionary meal into their mouths. This is our team member's personal experience, and I didn't make it up. However, there were often some surprises in this campaign all over the country. Old peasants, in their speeches, intentionally or unintentionally spoke the truth, saying that the old society is better than the new society, and some activities even hilariously turned into criticism of the hardships created by the Communist Party in the so-called New Society. According to the book Laughter and Tears of the Extreme Left in 1970, an army of the CCP marched into the most impoverished Shuangyao commune in a certain area and engaged in 2 memories and 3 investigations together with the poor peasants. First, remember past sufferings and happiness today, then a struggle session, and finally, the military and the people eating poor meals together. The poor meal was made by the army cooking team, stirred with wheat bran flour, vegetable leaves, and bean dregs. When the pot was uncovered, the smell filled the surrounding air with burnt scents. The peasants swarmed with bowls and pots and ate all of the poor meals in a flash. The soldiers took a look and were all dumbfounded. The instructor came and lost no time in educating everyone on the spot. Comrades, please look at the poor peasants. They consciously grabbed to eat poor meals. We have to humbly learn from them. Unexpectedly, the elder farmer Wang Baolin, standing aside, burped and waved his hands. Do not learn from us. The home-cooked meal we normally eat is not better than this, and I can't afford to eat until I'm full. Today, I finally stumped myself at last. After listening to the farmer's words, the soldiers were all standing there without a word. The instructor was also very embarrassed and did not know what to say. The author, Dan Ruoshui, used to work in the rural area during the Down to the Countryside movement, mentioned in his article, Remember Past Sufferings and Happiness Today, complaining about the evil old society, that after being brainwashed by the CCP, he and his buddies expected very much to hear the complaints of the old poor peasants about the old society and their bitter hatred for the exploitation and the oppression of the landlord class in the conference of Remembering Past Sufferings and Happiness Today, so that they could write high-quality reports on their visits to the poor in the composition class and on the weekly Blackboard news. However, to their disappointment, the peasants who were invited to make reports often began with the abstract, the old society was very hard. The landlords oppressed and exploited us poor peasants. But when it came to specific examples, not only could they not hear what oppression and exploitation they had suffered, but it was more like they were praising for the landlords. For example, once in a production team, they found an old poor farmer of 3 generations to speak and inspire him to recall the evils of the landlord. But the old peasant said he didn't dare to lie and complimented the landlord. In a manner of speaking, they were not bad to me. Shan Ruoshui and his classmate had no choice but to use the old poor farmer's tone to complain about the dark society and the cruel oppression and the exploitation of the landlords to cope with the needs of the essay and the Blackboard news. When Shan attended the production team's conference, Remember Past Sufferings and Happiness Today, he found that many people were just chatting there, and there was nothing to complain about the past sufferings. Everyone was going through a formality. After half an hour or so, a farmer named Zedong was coaxed to tell how his leg was crippled by the evil old society, and Shan came down with interest and looked at him. But Zedong was hemming and hawing and did not say a word, stalemating for a while. Everyone's attention shifted to other places instead. Why didn't Zedong say it? Later, the author learned that his leg had nothing to do with the evil old society. It was broken during running away when he was caught cheating. After being in the countryside for a long time, Xiaodan repeatedly found that in the conference, they hardly ever seen the elder people come forward to complain about the past sufferings. They either said that they had forgotten after a long time and couldn't remember, or said it was not that hard during that time. They did not pay us less, but instead good food and drinks were provided to us. Some of them even simply recalled the benefits and favors given by the landlords back then, which made the communist village cadres uncomfortable and had to bluff that they were old and stubborn, without class wokeness and confused by the petty favors of the landlords and rich peasants. When they had no choice but to go through the formalities, the communist village cadres approached the descendants of those old fogey to complain. These descendants, who had not really experienced the past and had been brainwashed by the CCP, then started to talk nonsense. In their mouths, the landlords, who had nothing to do with them, became sinners who ate the bones and drank the blood of the poor. And a concocted concept of family history of blood food was thus presented to the public. Although these falsifications were refuted and ridiculed by those who know the truth, it made the elders of these children targets of public criticism, but this did not prevent these falsifications from appearing in the communist media and becoming new materials for the CCP's brainwashing. That's it for part 1 of our show. We will continue to talk about the Chinese Communist Party's brainwashing methods in part 2, including an awkward but hilarious situation during brainwashing attempts in schools. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time on Deception of the World.